done. By me coming down here, just show that I'm committed to whatever needs to be done, whatever effort, or whatever unity we can propose and do together. That's what I'm all about. I'm all about doing things, a plan of action. Whether or not if it's education, educating yourself on the laws, education on the rights, on voting, anything to show change, whether it's writing your congressmen or your senators or the president, anything that needs to be done, I'm willing and able to do anything going forward.
All right, can you introduce yourself and tell us what inspired you to come out?
My name is Crystal Johnson. What inspired me to come out is just the injustice that continues to within our black communities. I am here to show support to our community, to let them know that we are here. We're not going to continue to lay down and let people walk all over us. This was a grave injustice done to Trayvon Martin, and I just, being a single mother, it could be done to my son. This stand your ground law is a law that gives anyone the right to just walk up and kill my child or myself. That's not right.
So how do we do that peacefully?
How do we do that peacefully? By continuing to come and show up to rallies like this, show up to your city council meetings, show up and vote, and vote on everything. Anything you don't like, voice your opinion. Let them know we don't like it. If somebody's in office and they're not right, get them out.
So what the kids away from this?
The kids need to know that we as a community need to the kids need to know they don't have to be afraid. They don't have to be afraid. We have the right to be who we are. I don't want my children to stop being young black men. I don't want my daughter not to be a young black woman. We shall not conform.
Do you think the prosecutors did their due diligence in this?
No, I do not. They did not do a good job at all. I believe they did the best they could with what they were allowed to do, because I feel somebody had their hand on them, letting them know you can't do this, you can't do that. They took a lot of their defense out.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And I'm RJ. Don't forget to tune in to Counter-Strike here on Community TV 1. This is the place to come and get your information on. You want controversy? We got that. You want information? We got that. Come on in. We got provocative talk. We got some entertainment. But we will certainly keep you informed on Community TV 1, Counter-Strike RJ. We'll see you there. Welcome to another edition of Counter-Strike on CommunityTV1.com. I am your host, RJ Ron Jenkins, host, executive producer, also executive produced by the one, the only Jesse Dortch. And of course, we now have our director of photography, Mr. Broderick Hall, who is also operating the cameras and doing everything he can to try and make me look better. Welcome to this edition. You know, once again this week I was asked why I'm a Republican. And instead of me going through and writing down all the reasons that I am a Republican, I figured I'd go ahead and record it for this week's session of Counter-Strike on Community TV 1. Well, why am I a Republican? I'll put it to you this way. If we look at both parties, Democrats and Republicans, the party that seems to be out to help the families the most, in my humble opinion, is the Republican Party. Look, in the 1960s, Daniel Monahan, who was a senator in New York, did a study. That study found that the African-American family was on its way out. Now, it had some pretty startling numbers back then. Of course, there were 8% of out-of-wedlock births. This was going on in the early 60s, late 50s. 17% of families didn't have a father in the home in the African-American community. And so the government set out to try and help the black family survive. And how did the government help out? Well, today, instead of that 8% number, we have 72% of our children are born out of wedlock. 53% of our homes that don't have a father in them. The government helped us out. Now, the party that is trying to get individuals to stand on their own and the party that is saying less government is going to be the cure to our survival is the Republican Party. I believe that as individuals, we have the answers to what ails our community. We cannot change our community until we change what's inside of us. The Democratic Party is always saying just let things happen. We don't support gay marriage in the African-American community, and I have nothing against homosexuals. I don't even care if they get married. But in general, in the African-American community, we do not support gay marriage. It's a fact. But those of you who support the Democratic Party, that's what they support. We don't support abortions. We don't believe in them. We always felt that you were supposed to take care of your children, not kill them. But nowadays, we just go along with the flow. Why? Because the party that most African Americans belong to, that's what they do. They say that abortion is okay, so we shouldn't worry about it. Now, I don't agree with saying that we should outlaw abortion, but I do believe that we should teach character development and we should help people make better decisions. The time to make the decision about whether or not to have a baby isn't after the baby is conceived, it's before the baby is conceived. In other words, think about what you're doing. In other words, think about who you're laying down with. In other words, keep your legs closed. Which party says that you should keep your legs closed? The Republican Party. Look, I'm all for individuals making their own decisions, but the government shouldn't say, okay, you can make all the bad decisions that you want and we'll be there to catch you if you fall. That's not the way it's supposed to work. I've been watching a film lately. It's called The Dark Knight Rises. This is a Batman flick. Now, to me, one of the best examples of what I'm talking about is a scene when Batman has to escape from a pit. Batman was trying to escape the pit, and as long as he had this rope around him, he was trying and he would fail. Why? Because he knew that there was something to catch him. As soon as he took the rope off, Batman was able to make the jump and he was able to climb out of the pit. The reason he was able to do it is because he knew that no one was going to be there to catch him. What we have to do is remove that tether. We have to say that we can make it on our own. We have to be strong enough to say that we don't need government in our lives, running our everyday lives, and that's the way that we'll overcome poverty. That's the way we'll overcome the double amount of unemployed men in our community, and that's the way that the African American community is going to survive. My name is Ron Jenkins. This is Counter-Strike on Community TV 1. See you in a few minutes.
You ever wanted to know what's going on in and around your community? CommunityTV1.com is your answer. Go ahead, log on to www.communitytv1.com and get your info on.
The City of Fort Worth has supported new and early-stage businesses by providing a location and technical assistance to new business owners. Tenants also have access to free business consulting, professional receptionist office, free Wi-Fi, 2 conference rooms, a large training room, copier and fax. Many new businesses now operating successfully have had their start at the Enterprise Center. If you have a business idea you would like to pursue, call Tom Scott at 239-321-7085 and come join us.
And welcome back to Counter Strike on Community TV One. I am your host and co-executive producer, Ron Jenkins, and our executive producer is Mr. Jesse Dorch, and we have Mr. Broderick Hall, who is the director of photography. Now, I want to touch base on the Trayvon Martin situation. Those of you who are not up to speed, well, you've been living under a rock if you aren't, but I'll still explain. Trayvon Martin was a 17-year-old African-American male that was walking home in Sanford, Florida one night, and a person who has appointed himself the community watch captain of a particular subdivision decided that he needed to check Trayvon and see where he was going because there had been some break-ins in the community. So he stopped Trayvon. According to him, a scuffle ensued, and Trayvon Martin was killed. Now, that is a fact. 17 years old, he was unarmed, and he was killed. Well, the trial has now began, and everyone's trying to figure out on a daily basis who scored the most points. I got to tell you, regardless of the outcome, there's one thing that's for certain. George Zimmerman is a coward. George Zimmerman is the worst kind of coward. Now, some of you may not like that. I know there are some folks that think George Zimmerman is a hero. But look, the guy says, if you've heard a 911 tape in which a couple of calls were made about the fight that was going on, you can hear someone in the background screaming. Screaming. Now, let's say I'm a grown man. I'm riding around in my car. I get out of my car to go check someone who I have tagged as a thug. I have a gun on me. Now, why in the world would I start screaming if I am armed with a gun? Unless I'm a coward. There's also another telling fact, and they don't talk about it nearly enough, in my humble opinion, on the news. There's a couple of things. One, George Zimmerman talking to a 911 operator. She asked him about the age of the suspect. George Zimmerman says he's a teenager. He appears to be a teenager wearing a hoodie. Now, a few months later, because, of course, Sanford police didn't do their job and arrest him immediately and do all the things they needed to do, including DNA testing of Trayvon Martin's hands, well, when he went to court, he issued kind of an apology to Trayvon Martin's parents. And what he said was, I'm sorry, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm sorry about the death of your son. The part I'm not paraphrasing about, I thought he was around my age or maybe just a little younger. You see, the fact is, if George Zimmerman actually thought there was a man, let me put it this way. If I was walking down George Zimmerman Street and I had on a hoodie, George Zimmerman wouldn't have gotten out of that car if he had an anti-tank missile, because he was a coward. George Zimmerman said to the 911 operator, he's a teenager. He figured he could go check that teenager and he would be able to play Mr. Big Shot. The young man ended up losing his life. So regardless of what the outcome is in this trial, and no matter how everyone is looking at it day to day and saying that the prosecution won today or the defense won today, whatever the outcome is, George Zimmerman should always and forever be looked upon as a coward. This man was armed, supposedly dangerous, supposedly training as an MMA fighter, and that's a mixed martial arts fighter, and we can hear him screaming, according to George Zimmerman, we can hear him screaming, "Somebody help me," on the 911 tape. Now, this is from a man who has a loaded gun, and this is from a man who is fighting with a teenager. George Zimmerman, you are the coward of the county. And again, I am taking sides because I feel like George Zimmerman was in the wrong and he took an innocent child's life. But that's neither here nor there. The fact is, we're dealing with a coward, you all. So stop all this stuff about what George Zimmerman should have done and how he should have stayed in the car and all of that argument. You can quit arguing about it. You can quit fretting about it. The one thing that this trial will never change, whether he's found guilty or not guilty, he's a coward. I'm RJ. My opinions are my own. This is Counterstrike on CommunityTV1.com.
You ever wanted to know what's going on in and around your community? CommunityTV1.com is your answer. Go ahead, log on to www.communitytv1.com and get your info on.
The City of Fort Myers has supported new and early-stage businesses by providing a location and technical assistance to new business owners. Tenants also have access to free business consulting, professional receptionist office, free Wi-Fi, 2 conference rooms, a large training room. Many new businesses now operating successfully have had their start at the Enterprise Center. If you have a business idea you would like to pursue, call Tom Scott at 239-321-7085 and come join us.
All right. And welcome back to Counterstrike on Community TV One. My name is Ron Jenkins. I am your host and co-executive producer along with Jesse Dorch, and Broderick Hall is operating the cameras right now. Now, when we left, I was speaking about Trayvon Martin and the coward of the county, George Zimmerman, and the fact that he was heard on a 911 tape, according to George Zimmerman. He says it's him. So if you take him at his word, he was screaming like a little child on a 911 tape. And we have a little bit of that for you right now. We're going to go ahead and play it.
Okay. And is it a male or female?
It sounds like a male.
And you don't know why?
I don't know why. I think they're yelling help, but I don't know. Just send someone quick. Please.
Okay. Does he look hurt to you?
I can't see him. I don't want to go out there. I don't know what's going on. So they're sending.
So you think he's yelling help?
Yes.
All right. What is your serial number?
There's gunshots.
You just heard gunshots?
Yes.
How many?
This one. Jimmy, get down. No, come here.
Is he no longer yelling?
No one, I don't know. Jeremy, get in here now. Jeremy, get up here.
Is he right outside?
Yeah, pretty much out the back, yeah.
Is he in front of it or behind that address?
He's behind my house.
Okay.
Just stay away from the windows.
I don't hear him yelling anymore. Do you?
And as you can hear, there's screaming going on in the background. You can hear someone screaming, and then you hear a gunshot. Now, most of us believe that that is Trayvon Martin, 17 years old, who's losing his life at that time because of George Zimmerman. However, George Zimmerman says that that's him screaming. George Zimmerman, the guy that called 911. George Zimmerman, the guy that got out of the car after he was advised. Of course, the 911 operator couldn't make him stay in the car, but after he was advised that they didn't need him to get out of the car and look for the teenager that he saw walking around the neighborhood. The guy that got out of his car with a loaded firearm. The guy that takes mixed martial arts training. The guy, according to him, that's screaming on the 911 tape. So whatever community that George Zimmerman may move into, wherever he may go, I hope that he is forever considered a coward. You see, I've been watching these proceedings this week, and The only thing I can tell you about it is that it makes me sad. It makes me sad for our country because I know that we still have a race problem here in our country. If Trayvon Martin was walking down the street in my community and he had a hood on, and I went out there and I stopped him, and I ended up killing him, and he ended up being a white kid, this conversation, we wouldn't even be having it. I would already be in prison. And that's sad. And I know there are many of you out there that don't believe that, but it is unfortunately a reality in this country. And there's not too many people, white or black, that don't believe that if Trayvon Martin was a white kid and George Zimmerman was black, he wouldn't be in prison already. He would have been arrested that night, not a month later. There wouldn't be all this crying out about it. There wouldn't be all this turmoil. It's unfortunate that we still have to go through this in this day and age, but unfortunately, it's a reality. But the good part about it, again, no matter whatever the outcome may be, from now on, from here to eternity, George Zimmerman should be labeled a coward. This should be on his mail. He should trademark the name. When we look up coward in the dictionary, there should be a picture of George Zimmerman. Now, we're going to have a town hall type discussion on this case probably around July 25th. And I am also looking for individuals that are willing to give the George Zimmerman point of view. So make sure you keep it locked. Make sure you get in contact with us if you're interested in taking part. I am RJ. This is Counter-Strike on Community TV 1.
You ever wanted to know what's going on in and around your community? CommunityTV1.com is your answer. Go ahead, log on to www.communitytv1.com and get your info on.
The City of Fort Myers has supported new and early-stage businesses by providing a location and technical assistance to new business owners. Tenants also have access to free business consulting, professional receptionist office, free Wi-Fi, 2 conference rooms, a large training room, copier and fax. Many new businesses now operating successfully have had their start at the Enterprise Center. If you have a business idea you would like to pursue, call Tom Scott at 239-321-7085 and come join us.
And welcome back to Counter-Strike on Community TV 1. I am your host, RJ Ron Jenkins. Thank you for joining us. If you have an opinion on anything that I may say, if you disagree, if you agree, go ahead and let it be known. Contact us right here at communitytv1.com. We love the feedback, positive or negative, at least that we are being heard, and we appreciate you guys letting us know whatever it is that you may think about what we're doing. There was a landmark decision this week in the Supreme Court. Now, because of the DOMA, Defense of Marriage Act, being upheld the next day, it didn't get, in my opinion, as much press as it should have gotten. The Supreme Court struck down a very important part of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and this was Section 4. Section 4 deals with the federal government having the final say over certain states in our nation on how they can change voting rights in this country. In other words, they had someone that was monitoring them and telling them, yeah, you can do this, that's okay, or no, you can't do this. Now, the reason that was put into that amendment is because, well, it was because they couldn't be trusted, the southern states. Now, you know the states we're talking about, Alabama, Texas, Florida, Georgia, those states that they weren't too kind to African Americans, you know, those states, because they were implementing things that were making it very, very difficult for minorities, particularly African Americans, to vote and exercise their right to vote. Now, there are a lot of folks that are very upset about this. You know what? I'm not one of them. I think that this is the time where we can see where the rubber actually hits the road in our country. Now, A lot of folks are saying, well, this means that we can't vote. No, this does not mean that African Americans can't vote. What it does mean is that some southern states are going to have the ability to change the parameters as far as who can vote and how we vote, even how we get identified for voting, which means that several of these states are now going to debate on what laws should be enacted. This is an opportunity for us to see how far our country has come. This is an opportunity to see if the same standards that applied in 1965 are still going on today. Now, many people say that they are. There are a lot of people that say, oh, we're still oppressed, and I don't buy that. I honestly don't. I think there are individuals that want us to think that we are still oppressed. I know that the government, and I'm sorry, those of you who support President Obama, and I support him, voted for him twice, okay? I support him. But the problem I have is that while he talks about the wealthy and that they can pay a little more, he never actually defines who the poor are in our country. So because we've been going through some tough economic times, many of us, because we've lost jobs, maybe the house has been foreclosed on, lost cars, lost income, whatever it may be, we start to consider ourselves to be in poverty or consider ourselves to be poor. And of course, if you're poor, you're looking for someone to save you. The more of us that consider ourselves poor, the bigger the government can get. And we allow it to happen because we feel that the government is going to be that safety net. African Americans should never, ever trust the government that much. But back to the Voting Rights Act. This is an opportunity for us to see if we have actually overcome the race issues that set this country on fire in the 60s. And look at it this way. Those of you who subscribe to Reverend Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, who I like also. I'm not against these guys at all. But those of you who believe that they have valid points, this is an opportunity for them to really start making some money. Can you imagine if some state imposes these draconian voting rights laws, and that will give them an opportunity to come march, to come hold arms and saying we shall overcome, and all of that good stuff that went on in the 60s, it'll be like just reliving it all over again. And I know those guys are looking forward to that. I'm RJ. This is Community TV 1. This is Counter-Strike.
You ever wanted to know what's going on in and around your community? CommunityTV1.com is your answer. Go ahead, log on to www.communitytv1.com and get your info on.
The City of Fort Myers has supported new and early-stage businesses by providing a location and technical assistance to new business owners. Tenants also have access to free business consulting, professional receptionist office, free Wi-Fi, 2 conference rooms, a large training room, copier, and fax. Many new businesses now operating successfully have had their start at the Enterprise Center. If you have a business idea you would like to pursue, call Tom Scott at 239-321-7085 and come join us.
And welcome back to Counter-Strike on CommunityTV1.com. I am your host, RJ. Would like to thank our co-executive producer, Mr. Jesse Dorch, and of course our director of photography, Broderick Hall, for all the things that they do in making sure that we can air what you guys are getting your information on with Community TV 1. We want to be the gateway for information here for African Americans, for minorities here in this community. We're working really hard to try and make that happen. Now, I started off today speaking about why I am a Republican, and I want to go a little bit deeper into that. You know, I have issues with abortion, the abortion rate in the African American community. It's staggering. It's uncalled for that it should be this high. And the party that fights to try and control that is the Republican Party. Now, many of you may say that the Republicans are trying to put in all these primitive ideas about abortion, and they're trying to limit a woman's right to choose. You know what? Maybe they are, but I have to ask you this. Most African Americans don't support abortion, but what exactly is the Democratic Party or the Democrat Party trying to do to curb the amount of abortions that are going on? Now, you may not like things that are said by people who call themselves Republicans or conservatives. To be honest with you, I don't like a lot of those things myself. I don't like it. I believe that we should at least, look at the people who are saying it, okay? Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, these guys are doing it because they want to get paid. They are not the Republican Party. I repeat, they are not the Republican Party. They're just a couple of individuals that happen to have an audience and a microphone. They can say some controversial things and they can turn you off. What I invite you to do is start looking at both parties. I want you to look at what the Democrat Party stands for. And then I want you to look at what the Republican Party stands for. I want you to take out the Rush Limbaughs and the Sean Hannitys and their opinion. I want you to actually look at the platform for the Republican Party. I guarantee you that there are more things that you have in common with the Republican Party than with the Democratic Party. Why do I say this? Well, because I've been there. I used to believe that the Democratic Party was the way to go. Why did I believe that? Because I heard certain Republicans saying things that I didn't like. They were saying things that I just couldn't agree with. And people that I thought were racist, I thought that those were Republicans. But now I realize that no matter what those individuals may have to say, the fact is, and please hear me when I say this, the fact is, when the Republican Party starts talking about limiting the size of government, that is something that African Americans in particular should applaud. All of these things that the government tries to do to implement and say that they're saving our community, they end up hurting us. The Welfare Act of 1965, it has destroyed the African American family. The men cannot live in the home. They put a war on drugs, which turned out to be a war on African American men. It meant that more of us ended up in prison. Everything and every time the government says that they are implementing solutions, they end up hurting us. The government is implementing more money into the government, or they're going to expand government. And now our unemployment rate is double that of our white counterparts. So there's a little trend going on here. And the one that I have to stand up with is the one that seems to be fighting against it, and that's the Republican Party. So I invite you to not listen. If it offends you, don't listen to Rush Limbaugh. Myself, I think it's very funny because I know a lot of the stuff that he says is untrue, and I doubt if he believes most of the stuff he says. However, there are many of you who are offended by that, so hey, don't listen to it. But what you should do, what we have to do, is start paying attention to what's happening in our community. Why are our kids dropping out of school? Why have they lost hope? Why do they feel that they don't have to fight? Because they feel that there's a government safety net that's there that's going to save them. Why do our kids have sex before they even become teenagers? Because many of our young girls feel that if they do have a baby, the government will be there to take care of it. Guys, we've got to change all of this. The party that's working to change it, in my humble opinion, is the Republican Party. That's why I'm a conservative. That's why I support many of the initiatives that they have. I don't always support the people. Trust me, there are a lot of racists in the Republican Party. But don't you think for 1 second, don't you think for 1 minute that there aren't many racists in the Democratic Party that feel that we should be under them and that we should only listen to what they have to say? That's racist at its face. So that's why I'm a Republican now. Do me a favor. Think about this. Why are you a Democrat? And I'd like to hear your answer. I am RJ. This is Counter-Strike on CommunityTV1.com. We'll talk to you next time.
You ever wanted to know what's going on in and around your community? CommunityTV1.com is your answer. Go ahead, log on to www.communitytv1.com and get your info on.
The The City of Fort Myers has supported new and early-stage businesses by providing a location and technical assistance to new business owners. Tenants also have access to free business consulting, professional receptionist office, free Wi-Fi, 2 conference rooms, a large training room, copier and fax. Many new businesses now operating successfully have had their start at the Enterprise Center. If you have a business idea you would like to pursue, call Tom Scott at 239-321-7085 and come join us.
And the title of our segment today is You Can Be Free from Bondage Too. We have a few commercials that we will share with you, and the whole idea of the Community Christian Mission Program is to get information out, and we will be sharing and having pastors and choirs and different ones to come in and share information. But we're going to take a break right now and go to some commercials, and we'll be right back on Community Christian Mission Program. I'm your host, Vivian Watkins.
You ever wanted to know what's going on in and around your community? CommunityTV1.com is your answer. Go ahead, log on to www.communitytv1.com and get your info on.
The City of Fort Myers has supported new and early-stage businesses by providing a location and technical assistance to new business owners. Tenants also have access to free business consulting, professional receptionist office, free Wi-Fi, 2 conference rooms, a large training room, copier and fax. Many new businesses now operating successfully have had their start at the Enterprise Center. If you have a business idea you would like to pursue, call Tom Scott at 239-321-7085 and come join us.
Program. I'm your host, Vivian Watkins, and we're talking about bondage, being enslaved to sin. And we talked about the definition of what bondage is, but I want to share some things that would be expressed and that individuals can get an understanding what we as Christians can be enslaved to. Well, we can be enslaved to material things and want, and put those before God. And as I read in the 10 Commandments, that God is a jealous God, and he don't want us to have any other gods before him. So we can become enslaved and bondage to having material things. Those things are going to pass away. And what other things can we be in bondage to? We can be enslaved and in bondage in a relationship where an individual is, really cruel and mean, but we're enslaved to that relationship, and we permit that individual to treat us any kind of way. So that's a form of bondage also. We can be in bondage to the love of money, trying to get rich quick. And there's nothing wrong with having money, but it says in the Bible that when we love it, that, we can be so engrossed into, money and becoming and getting rich that we would almost do anything to have the money. So those are just some forms of bondage. And I think, drugs, alcohol, all of those things, those are forms of bondage. And when we think about bondage, and we reference the scriptures, as I had read before, Galatians, the 5th chapter and the 5th verse, And then 2 Corinthians in the 3rd chapter, the 6th verse, I wanted to expound more on that. It says, who has made us sufficient to be ministers of a new covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life. The old covenant, the law certainly expressed the divine will of God and portrayed his holy and perfect nature, but it had no power to help us obey God's will. The Spirit does. So even though we have the 10 Commandments, and there are rules in life that we have to obey and abide by the law, the thing that keeps us is the Spirit. That's what helps us to do what's right. There is another passage of Scripture that I'd like to share with you that's taken from 2 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter and the 17th verse. It says, now the Lord is the Spirit, and where there is liberty. So if we have the Spirit of the Lord, that's where we have liberty. Therefore, we can be free. When Jesus comes into our human heart by faith through the Spirit, he sets that person free from the bondage of sin. See, that's what I just said. So when we have the Spirit of God, we believe in him by faith, then we can be set free. The chains of death and the incapable attempt of trying to become righteous through self-effort. We can't do it. We have to do it by believing in the Lord Jesus Christ, that he has forgiven us of our sins, and we believe that his son Jesus Christ went to the cross and died for our sins. We're now coming up to another commercial, so we're going to take a break. I'm your host with Community Christian Mission Program, Vivian Watkins. We'll be right back with more information on bondage. You can be free from bondage too.
You ever wanted to know what's going on in and around your community? CommunityTV1.com is your answer. Go ahead, log on to www.communitytv1.com and get your info on.
The City of Fort Myers has supported new and early-stage businesses by providing a location and technical assistance to new business owners. Tenants also have access to free business consulting, professional receptionist office, free Wi-Fi, 2 conference rooms, a large training room, copier and fax. Many new businesses now operating successfully have had their start at the Enterprise Center. If you have a business idea you would like to pursue, call Tom Scott at 239-321-7085 and come join us.
To Community Christian Mission Program. I'm your host, Vivian Watkins. I hope that you're able to get something out of the segment that we're talking about today. You can be free from bondage too. And I named all of the different forms of bondage, and there are many more forms of bondage that we can be in as Christians, but just from these couple passage of scriptures, they are very inspirational and inspiring.
The higher they go to, the better off the financial part and the opportunity to attend a college of their choice.